Black boy gets kicked out of first class. 15 minutes later, his CEO father arrives and turns the tables. "Hey," the flight attendant shouted, hurrying down the aisle. "That's not your seat. Get up now." Julius froze. He was 12 years old. He held the ticket in his hand, sweating even in the plane's frigid air conditioning. He looked at the printed number. 1A. That was it. First class. He nodded again. First class. The same one stamped on the little gold plaque on the window seat. "This seat is for first-class passengers, kid," the man insisted, now standing beside him, one hand on the armrest. His gaze was hard, cold, as if Julius had invaded the cockpit. "I know," the boy replied, swallowing hard. "This is my place. I have the ticket." He held out the note with a trembling hand. The man looked him up and down. Julius wore a red sweatshirt, simple jeans and worn sneakers. His hair was thick with frizz, his eyes alert. He was small for his age. Black. Alone. The flight attendant didn't take the ticket. He just crossed his arms. "Where are your parents? My father's coming." He bought the ticket. He asked me to board first. "This isn't a bus station," the man replied, chuckling to himself. "Come on, get up." "But it's my place." Before he could finish, he felt the man's hand tugging on his arm. Weakly, Julius stood up. A few people watched the scene. None intervened. Some even seemed uncomfortable with his presence there, as if he didn't truly belong there. "Come with me. I'll take you to the back. They probably got your seat wrong," the flight attendant said, leading the boy down the aisle where the cramped economy class seats were crammed together. "I didn't make a mistake. My father bought—" Julius began, but his voice trailed off at the sound of a whispered comment. "This is no place for that kind of people. Before we begin, I want to know where you're watching from. Please leave your city or country in the comments. I read every comment and love connecting with our community around the world. Take the opportunity to click the subscribe button and activate the bell to receive all the news. Please type 1 in the comments. Your support is crucial for us to reach more seniors who urgently need this information." Julius didn't answer. His chest burned. He couldn't tell if it was anger or shame, or both. He just wanted to sit down, travel, get to New York quickly. His father would meet him there, saying he'd sort everything out before he left. But now he was here, being treated like an intruder. The flight attendant pointed to a chair in the back, next to a snoring man. "Sit there until they sort it out, and keep this paper, okay? Just so no one kicks you off the entire flight." Julius sat, hunched over. He stared out the window, but everything seemed grey. He closed his eyes, feeling a tear well up. Only then did he hear a noise coming from the front of the plane, a murmur, quickened voices, and a loud, clear, deep question. "Who took my son from his first-class seat?" The voice, that voice. Julius recognized it instantly. His heart raced. He opened his eyes and looked down the aisle. The man stood at the cabin entrance, tall, imposing, impeccably suited, and wearing sunglasses. Father. Nathaniel Carter, CEO of Carter Systems, one of the largest technology companies in the country. The commissioner's eyes widened. "Sir, please, There's been a misunderstanding." Nathaniel calmly removed his glasses. His gaze was icy. A misunderstanding is when someone spills coffee on someone else's lap, when someone is kicked out of their seat for being black and unaccompanied in an elite cabin. That has another name. It wasn't that. That's exactly it. He strode down the hallway, firm. "You took my son from where he belonged because you looked at him and decided he didn't belong." The commissioner tried to mumble something, but Nathaniel didn't give him time. He walked straight to Julius, who was already standing, his eyes wide. His father hugged him tightly. "I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner." "It's okay, Dad," Julius whispered, holding back tears. "Now it will stay." Nathaniel turned to the passengers, the flight attendants, the curious gazes. "This kid is Julius Carter, And he's going to sit in first class, where he should have been all along. If anyone has a problem with that, they can get off the plane. I'll buy another jet right now." Silence. Someone coughed. Someone looked away. No one said anything. The commissioner who kicked him out seemed to want to disappear. Nathaniel bent down, picked up his son's carry-on bag, and held out his hand. "Come on, son." Julius held her tightly. They walked back to the front of the plane together. The looks on each other's faces had changed. Some were embarrassed, others were pure surprise. One or two smiled shyly. Neither said anything. They sat side by side in seats 1A and 1B. "How was it down there?" asked the father after they were settled. "Horrible. I thought you weren't coming. I always come, and no one will make you go through this again." The plane began to taxi. Julius looked out the window. The sky had already cleared, but inside him, a heavy cloud still hung heavy. He was proud of his father, of course, but he also felt anger at needing a powerful man to be treated with respect, anger at not being able to simply belong. And it was in that moment, with the engines roaring, that he made a silent decision. One day, he would be as big as his father, or bigger, but he would do it differently because the world needed to change, and he would be the beginning. The plane flew high, cutting through the dense clouds that dominated the horizon. Julius, now back in his seat in first class, couldn't focus on the movie playing on the screen in front of him. His mind was racing, thinking about everything that had happened and what was yet to come. His father sat beside him, staring at his phone screen as if nothing had happened, but Julius knew that deep down, the situation wasn't as resolved as it seemed. Nathaniel Carter, the CEO of Carter Systems, was unbeatable in the business world, but even he knew that power couldn't always solve everything. "Dad, what happened to that man?" Julius asked, breaking the silence. Nathaniel didn't look at him, but his voice was calm and controlled. "He's been punished. Don't worry about that now. If someone doesn't learn any other way, the most effective way to teach is with consequences. They need to understand that you're not just anyone." Julius didn't know whether to feel relief or discomfort. In a way, he was happy that his father was defending him like this, but at the same time, he felt a pang of guilt. The idea that the world needed to be fixed by someone with so much power seemed distorted, as if he were just a piece on a vast board. What would he do when his father's power wasn't enough? It was strange. Deep down, Julius knew that the respect his father commanded, with his money, position, and influence, was not something easily earned. But he also knew that, in many cases, money only masked the problem, not solved it. As the flight progressed, he continued to observe the people around him. In economy class, passengers glanced at them from time to time, some angrily, others indifferently. They didn't know that Julius Carter wasn't just the son of a CEO. He was also part of something bigger, something that needed to be transformed. The chief steward later appeared before them. Julius recognized him immediately, but the man's demeanor had changed. Gone was the disdainful look. Now the steward seemed hesitant, as if he were being watched, afraid of making another mistake. He leaned in slightly, with a forced smile. "Mr. Carter, we're here if you need anything. If you need any additional comfort for your son, please let us know. We apologize for the confusion." Nathaniel looked at him with a cold gaze. "The only comfort I need is for this kind of thing to never happen again." "Got it." The commissioner swallowed, nodded, and left. Julius watched his father, a sense of admiration mixed with a certain disconnect. Nathaniel's power seemed to flow in every gesture, every word. He commanded the space around him, made the world bow to him, but deep down, Julius didn't want to have to do the same. "Why don't you ever let me make my own decisions?" Julius asked suddenly without thinking. His father looked at him, his eyes softening slightly. It was the first time the boy had dared to question him so frankly. The conversation was in the air, and he knew he needed an answer that went beyond mere excuses of authority. "I protect you, Julius," Nathaniel said, his voice low, almost as if explaining himself. "It's not about control. It's about making sure you're never trampled on. The world, my son, is harsh, and not all problems can be solved fairly. Sometimes you need strength to change the rules." Julius swallowed his words. He'd always known his father had a ruthless outlook on the world, but this idea of force as something necessary made him uneasy. "And what happens when that power runs out?" he asked, looking at his father with a serious expression. Nathaniel hesitated for a second, then leaned forward, looking into his son's eyes. "It never ends. He who has control stays in control. If you want to change the world, you'll need more than ideas. You'll need power, Julius, and I'll teach you how to use it." The boy closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of those words. He knew what they meant, knew his father was talking about the same power that made him superior to others, a power that separated him from others, that made him seen as unattainable. And he, Julius, needed to learn all about this power, because one day he would have to decide whether he wanted to use it to right what was wrong, or whether he would be like everyone else. The plane continued its journey through the sky, but Julius's mind was elsewhere. He thought about how things would change, how he could use what he'd learned to create something different, something that didn't require any more divisions, something where people didn't need special tickets to be treated with dignity. The flight reached its destination, and the landing was smooth, but for Julius it all felt like a battle. He knew the real fight was yet to come. As the plane touched down in New York, the doors opened, but in Julius's heart, something was beginning to form. He wasn't there just because he was Nathaniel Carter's son. He was there because he had something to prove. New York City lay before them, with its glittering lights and incessant hustle and bustle. Julius felt his chest tighten, the smell of asphalt, the noise of cars, the hustling crowds. It was all so far removed from the life he knew. The contrast between the skyscrapers and chaotic streets and the tranquility of first class seemed almost surreal. When the plane landed, Nathaniel took his son's hand firmly, as if the world outside were a minefield, and he were the only one capable of protecting his son from the invisible bombs that could explode at any moment. "Let's go," he said, his voice low but urgent. "We don't have time." Julius watched his father. The man was always on the move, always with an agenda, always with a clear goal. What he didn't know was whether this made Nathaniel so strong or so fragile. Because deep down, the power he wielded over everything around him also seemed to carry an immense loneliness. They exited the plane and walked through the terminal, surrounded by people watching them, unsure of what was happening. Some whispered about their father's status. Others barely concealed their curious glances, but no one dared approach them directly. Julius was absorbed, feeling the weight of each step, when his father pulled him by the hand and led him into the car waiting at the exit. The driver, dressed in a dark suit, looked at them and waved, without asking a question. He was the kind of person who knew exactly who he was driving. On the drive to the Carter Systems building, Julius didn't say a word. It was as if the weight of the city had settled over him, making him reflect on everything that had just happened. He could smell success in the air, the scent of something great, but he also felt the heat of injustice, the pain of always being seen in a way he didn't want. They arrived at the Crystal Building. Nathaniel got out first, then looked at his son with a tight smile. "This is my world. This is where everything happens. Every decision we make here changes the course of the future. There is no room for failure. There is no room for indecision. Julius watched, trying to understand. He knew he was on the verge of a choice that could change his life forever. In the elevator, his father kept his hand on Julius's shoulder. The pressure of being Nathaniel Carter's son had never been so palpable. "What do you want for your life?" Nathaniel asked, as if it were a simple question, but the tone of his voice suggested he already knew the answer. Julius didn't think for long. He knew what he wanted to say, but he wasn't sure he had the courage to say it. "I want to do something different, something that doesn't require so much force. I want people to be treated fairly, without needing a first-class ticket or a famous surname. I want everyone to have a chance to be seen without relying on an invisible power that chooses who deserves to be at the top." Nathaniel was silent for a moment, and when the elevator stopped on the executive floor, he said, "You're my son, Julius. I love you. But life out there, it doesn't work that way. You won't change the world with pretty ideas. You'll need strength. You need power. Power is the only currency worth having." Julius didn't look at his father. He knew what was being said wasn't a lie. But that wasn't all. The world could be changed, if only there was enough courage. As they stepped out of the elevator, Julius looked around at the building, the glass walls, the bright lights, the luxurious offices. It was everything his father had built, but it was also everything he didn't want for himself. He didn't want to be a prisoner of a system that revolved solely around power. Deep down, he knew his father wasn't wrong about many things. The world was harsh, but Julius believed there was another way. A way where, yes, power was important, but it wasn't the only means to achieving justice. As they walked to the meeting room, Julius stopped. Nathaniel looked at him with an arched eyebrow, waiting. "I need some time," Julius said firmly. "I'm not going into that room right now. I need to think more about what I want to do." The father didn't react immediately. It was as if he had been expecting this answer. "What you want to do is simple," Nathaniel said wearily. "You will become part of this, or you will be left behind like everyone else. It's not a difficult choice, Julius." Julius took a deep breath, looking out the high-floor window. Below, the streets were a chaotic jumble of people rushing in every direction, each with their own dreams and frustrations. He knew there was something else inside him, something that couldn't be ignored. "I need time," he repeated, and this time the decision was clear. Nathaniel stared at him for a long moment. Then he waved his hand, as if accepting the choice, but also questioning it. "Okay, but don't delay. The world waits for no one, Julius." Julius stood there, watching his father leave the room and leave him alone for a while. The city outside, with all its opulence and speed, now seemed distant. The boy knew that what he did from now on would define his life. He didn't yet know how he would change the world, but he knew he didn't want to be just a piece on the board. What he wanted, and knew he would need to achieve, was something far more important than what his father had built. He wanted to have a real impact. Something that would change lives without using power to crush those around him. Julius took a deep breath. The future was in his hands, and he was finally ready to write his own story.